Using layer masks is a big and very important part of this topic, and I have a separate training course on using masks and working with masks in Photoshop. So if you want to make sure that you know everything about this part, then please check out my Essential Skills for Designers masking course. In this video, I will quickly go through everything that you need to know, but if you're not familiar with the whole concept, then it's better to visit that course as well. Well, first of all, you need to know that whenever you create a mask, you hide details. And to be able to hide and show details, you are going to use white and black colors in the mask. So if I alt click on the mask, I can show you that black hides and white shows. That means whenever I draw with the brush tool over an image which has a mask and I draw with white, that will show the original details, and if I draw with black, that will hide. But it's always non-destructive, so I can always go back and forth because I don't affect the image itself, I'm affecting only the mask. So masking is one of the pillars of the non-destructive workflow in Photoshop. Now let me just go back to the selection that I created before I added the mask. Whenever I have a selection like this and I would like to hide the selected area, instead of clicking on the mask, I can hold down Alt and click on the mask, and that will hide the selection instead of showing the selection. So if I just simply click on the mask, that will show the selected area and hide the other part. But that's not a big problem because I can always press Ctrl I to invert the colors of the mask, and that will result in an inverse masking on the image. I can also apply a layer mask, and that will be a destructive change. But if I right click on it and choose apply layer mask, then I will be able to see now I removed completely the background and there's no chance of getting it back apart from stepping back in history. But whenever I have transparency on a layer, I can also create a mask from transparency. From the layer menu, I can choose layer mask and choose from transparency. That's another interesting feature. So I got the mask back, but in this case, I already lost the original details. If I have transparency, I can also lock that transparency, which is another interesting feature. And in that case, if I start drawing, the drawing will only affect the area which is covered, the contents of the layer, but it won't affect the transparency of the layer. So if I press Alt backspace in this case, I will fill in the whole layer with the foreground color. I can go back to the original image, and if I create a path, for example, with the rectangle tool, let me just draw a path, and I command click on the mask icon, then from this path I can create a vector mask. The advantage of vector masks is that we can very easily edit them without losing any quality around the edges. So it will still be a vector shape, the mask itself. I already mentioned clipping masks and how to create them, but let me just show you once again how it looks like. So I'm just going to delete this vector mask and I'm going to create text, for example. So I just type in girl and I make this text bigger, something like that, and I'm just going to change the font itself to something different. Yeah, let's use that. And then I'm going to also create another layer at the bottom, which I'm going to fill with yellow. And then if I put the girl's layer on top of this text and create a clipping group or clipping mask with these two layers by alt clicking between the two layers, then I will be able to see the girl only inside the text. So the text is the mask in this case, which I can move around easily, and the girl is the visible area inside that mask. To create the clipping mask, I can also press Command Alt G or Control Alt G on PC. I can use gradual transition in masks as well. If I use a pixel mask, so I just create an empty mask like that, and then use the gradient tool, I can create these nice transitions. And let me again create that mask around the model to remove the background just quickly. I'm going to fill that in with black, and that will be edited here in my mask. So I can use also the properties panel. If I double click on the mask, it will come up, where I can change the density of the mask, and that means it will reveal the masked areas. So for example, if I invert my mask, which I can also achieve from the properties panel, and then reducing the density, I will gradually show the masked areas. Feather will blur the outlines of my mask. That's also a quite useful option. And then we have the mask edge and color range, where we can again add more changes to our masking. I'm going to talk about these in more detail in the selections topic. I already mentioned that you can see the mask itself. It's called the mask view if you alt click on the mask thumbnail. If you alt click again, you will go back to normal view. If you shift click on the mask, you can disable it and see the image without the mask's effect. If you alt shift click on the mask, you will get the quick mask view based on the mask itself. If you command click on the mask, you will get a selection based on the mask. If you command shift click on a mask, that will be added to the selection. The outlines of the mask will be added. If you command alt click, that will be subtracted from your selection. And command alt shift or control alt shift clicking on the mask thumbnail will create an intersection of your actual selection and the selection based on the mask's outlines. And last but not least, it's good to know that you can add more masks on the same layer by using layer groups. So if I put this layer in a group and I create another selection, I can save that selection as a second layer mask, affecting the same layer. And I can carry on doing this with several nested layer groups, adding more and more separate masks. And the advantage of that is I have full control over each of the masks separately. So I can edit the feathers and density and mask edge of each of these masks separately. So once again, if you are not sure about masking in general, then make sure you check out my Essential Skills for Designers masking course.